The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Well, things really aren't looking good for Mitt Romney. Did you know, Lewis, that no candidate for president has ever had their horse lose Olympic show jumping and gone on to win the presidency? Never happened.
I would have guessed that no president has ever had their horse in an Olympic show jumping competition.
That I don't know, actually. I mean, I actually think that there may have been some presidents towards the beginning of the 20th century, Natan, that may have had a horse.
Yeah, they probably had all sorts of different animals, but, you know, times have changed.
Right.
Well, the Mars rover Curiosity hasn't yet found water on Mars, but they did find some more money that Mitt Romney is hiding outside of the U.S. That's the big discovery, yeah.
Now that's a tax haven if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I'll say. The fakest video in months. I love this. I've reviewed this video so closely. I went frame by frame analyzing it like that Zapruder film of John F. Kennedy's assassination, because it's one of the most compelling pieces of video I've ever seen. Somebody thought it would be really great if Mitt Romney appeared to go grocery shopping, okay? Now, the problem is Mitt Romney doesn't really know how to go grocery shopping. So in the video, which was clearly staged because there was, it was riddled with media that was already waiting for him there, he, number one, almost forgets to grab the shopping cart, okay? So imagine the conversation before. Okay, listen, Mitt, you've got to go grocery shopping. When you show up, there's going to be shopping carts. They look like little cars. They have 4 wheels, kind of like the ones that you're building that elevator for. Lay people use these to put food inside, okay? So the food inside, it's not going to be all prepared like you're used to having the servants put it on a plate for you. The items will be separate. There will be vegetables, there will be meat. You're going to have to grab those items and put them in the cart, okay? Then when you go to pay, they're going to expect payment from you. So you'll have to hand them your credit card, wait for them to give you the card back, okay, because the cards aren't one-time use, and then sign the slip when they give it to you. You've got to sign the slip. Oh, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. It didn't go that well, okay? This is the video of how that went, and it's pretty pathetically embarrassing. Who believes this is real, okay? Does anybody think that this is a real thing? I'll tell you what he bought afterwards. What he bought confirms this is not a real shopping trip. Let's take a look.
Governor, you cooked for tonight? Absolutely.
So then he goes in, and then he says, oh, wait a second, there are those carts. I was told to get one. Let me grab that and look as natural as possible and walk in. Could he look any more stiff, Lewis?
No.
He's probably thinking, do people often get shot in supermarkets? So now he comes out with the cart, looking very natural. Going over to Secret Service. Secret Service has taken the liberty of opening up the trunk for him. How nice.
There's like a double door in the trunk. Obviously some type of security feature.
So there he is putting his groceries in the back. Let's hear the conversation.
Are you going to cook today?
I'll make my own dinner, yeah. That's not exactly cooking.
He's making his own dinner tonight.
You got a hungry man dinner?
Secret Service squad taking the cart away. Then he indicates he wants to go to the drugstore as well. Okay, that would be really the trip I want to see. What does he do at the drugstore, Lewis?
I don't know. Get some Tylenol, some ibuprofen, something to loosen up.
So Romney reportedly bought 12 packs of caffeine-free Diet Coke, wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and some Greek yogurt. Wow, he's having people over. He's going to entertain people with caffeine-free Diet Coke. Oh, well, actually, Mormons can't have caffeine, right?
Right.
That's what it is. That's what it is, Lewis. And then Greek yogurt. At least get some honey and berries for the Greek yogurt to make it seem remotely like you've done this before, don't you think?
Yeah. There was water, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water.
A lot of bottled water there.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. Fakest video I've seen in months. Mitt Romney goes grocery shopping.
Yeah. It's pretty sad that you have to do this stuff to try and make people think that you're
a real person.
A normal human being.
It is pretty shocking. Okay, I've been saying for months that I've identified 3 areas of the current Republican Party, and we've been talking about them regularly. My 3 identifications have been, number 1, you've got the kind of pro-business Republican who really just cares about low taxes, kind of the one that I would consider most in line with Mitt Romney. Then I've identified the more libertarian Tea Party type faction of the Republican Party. That's more the Ron Paul, slightly more more focused on less regulation rather than lower taxes, That's the angle number 2. And number 3, of course, is the nutty religious right, which is really just focused on social policy. That's the main focus. Interestingly enough, I was sent an article from the Examiner yesterday, and it outlines what this particular article sees as the 3 factions of the Republican Party. And it's almost identical, Lewis, to what I've been saying. Not to pat myself on the back, it's obvious, but it's great that this is a discussion now that's happening out there.
Right. It almost seems, though, like the third group you mentioned, the religious party, should really have their own party. I mean, they really don't care about anything except social issues.
No, you're right.
Which shouldn't be part of political discourse, but they are.
But maybe they should have their own party, but they don't currently.
Right.
Currently, it's one of these 3 factions.
The Christian party.
The Examiner outlines the first faction is the traditional business conservative, the second faction is the Tea Party, and the final group is evangelical Christians. So essentially the same three-way division that I've been seeing here. And the question is, can Mitt Romney get all 3 of those factions to vote for him? Which one do you think Romney has the most favorable ratings from? I say it's clearly that pro-business side.
Definitely, but what he has to do is make everyone in all 3 factions think that they have to vote for him because he's better than Obama no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, I mean, the Tea Party faction, I think, is going to be hit or miss for him. They're not going to vote for Obama. The question is, will they try to make some kind of anarchist statement by not voting at all? But I think in the end, mostly they're going to vote for Mitt Romney. And then the evangelical right is the one that, for me, is still to be determined. I mean, given the Mormonism, I know a lot of evangelicals don't like that. At the same time, they think President Obama's a Muslim, so they're not going to vote for him either.
I think Romney's VP pick is going to be huge in this.
I don't know about that. I really don't think, Natan, that VP selection can really influence very much. I mean, if we get down to a one-state situation where, for example, you need Wisconsin and you elect a VP pick from Wisconsin and you win Wisconsin by 2, okay, that's an instance where it may have made a difference. But historically, I don't know that VP picks make that much of a difference.
Yeah, I think that, if Romney makes a quote-unquote good pick, he'll get like a short-term bump in the polls. But whether it lasts or not, I think after the debates, we'll have a clearer picture of how he matches up with Obama. And by that point, the VP pick won't have mattered that much.
I don't know. I think we're in a unique situation here because there's never been 2 candidates like this before in an election. I think
where one is Muslim and one is Mormon.
Right. Effectively Muslim in the eyes of the people that he needs to win over. So I think the VP pick is a game changer here.
All right. I don't know that I agree, but we'll see who it is. I think it's a game changer potentially negatively, like if he goes with a Sarah Palin equivalent.
Well, I mean, it could always affect you negatively.
Marvin Wilson, a 54-year-old death row inmate, has been put to death in Texas. The controversy is that many say that Wilson has an IQ of 61, which technically makes him a mentally retarded or mentally handicapped individual. Now, the Supreme Court rejected without any comment the last-ditch appeal to stay the execution, Lewis, clearing the way for the lethal injection. The appeal cited a 2004 psychological exam, which said his IQ was 61. The Texas benchmark for mental retardation is about 70 or less. I don't know what about 70 or less means. It doesn't sound like an exact number, but of course measuring IQ is not exactly an exact science either. The Texas federal courts rejected this. They said, prosecutors made the case that he was a street-savvy criminal. He also had some IQ tests that showed his IQ was in the low to mid-70s. He was convicted in 1994 in the shooting death of Jerry Williams, who was 21 at the time, who police had identified him to police as a drug dealer. His accomplice in the crime, Terry Lewis, was given life in prison with the possibility of parole after Lewis's wife testified that Wilson confessed to pulling the trigger. The argument about why, listen, regardless of what IQ test says, 61 or 71 or 75, the argument that was used by the prosecution was, quote, Wilson created schemes using a decoy to screen his thefts, hustled for jobs in the community, and orchestrated the execution of the snitch, demonstrating inventiveness, drive, and leadership. I actually don't really care whether this is a mentally retarded individual or not. Why do we still have the death penalty again, particularly in Texas, which executed an innocent man in the recent years? Doesn't make any sense to me. That being said, do you think this is an argument to be had about what is the IQ and at what point can you or can you not execute someone?
No, I mean, I really think that's more of a distraction, right? I mean, because the conversation should be about the death penalty overall.
Yeah, I'm mixed because, Natan, on one hand, I do feel compelled to say no one who is mentally retarded should be executed. At the same time, I kind of feel like I'm taking away from the main point, which is that we shouldn't have the death penalty at all, even by talking about that.
Right. It kind of makes it seem like if they could somehow resolve the issue of mentally retarded people being executed, everyone will be okay with executions for everybody else.
Right.
I agree. I think that if we're going to oppose the death penalty, we need to look at it not just in light of this issue, but at whether the state should be killing people at all, period.
The other thing also, Lewis, is that people hoping that there was a stay of execution, Governor of Texas Rick Perry is not going to grant a stay to anyone that has a chance of carrying out the office of governor with more intelligence than he's shown. And that's probably really at the root of why Rick Perry wouldn't want to buy into that stay.
Yeah, I hear he's planning on wiping out most of the state in general.
It's going to result that way
Yeah.
if he follows this tactic, no question about it.
Perhaps this has to go to the federal level. Not this case, obviously. That's
Just
done.
Rick Perry's intelligence.
No, executions.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I think that we do need a federal ban on the death penalty.
There you go.
But of course, that's too much government. And as Ron Paul said, I would be against anything that's more government, as we've heard him say many, many times.
And I don't think any president, left or right, is going to really have that on their radar as a major issue.
No, probably not. Okay, Lewis, after TV director Natan returned from Argentina, Lewis had a number of questions about Argentinian mate and the differences between tea and that. So Natan is actually taking the liberty of bringing in a Matagorda today, as well as a thermos of hot water. And Lewis has agreed to try this on air. Now, Natan proposed to Lewis that he try this before the show to first taste it, but I prevented that from happening. I said, if we're going to have you try this, which I find to be disgusting and bitter, on the show, it should really be your first trial. So Lewis, walk us through what you're doing here, or maybe I will. Lewis now is taking...
Well,
go ahead.
I can do this.
Okay.
This, I don't know what this is, but it has this dry powder in it that I guess is the mate.
Right.
And there's a
So,
straw.
I mean, if you want, I can tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So what Lewis is holding is a mate gourd. Of course, gourd would imply that it's made of squash, but it's actually wooden. But people just call it a mate gourd made of wood.
But on this last trip, you actually got a squash one.
That's correct. Although this one is nicer, and I wanted to show Lewis this one.
Okay.
So he's going to take the hot water in the thermos and actually infuse the tea. It's not really tea. It's the mate leaf. And then he's going to drink out of the straw without moving the straw. That's a key point right
Now,
there.
what's incredible is when I was in Uruguay, everyone on the street is walking around with a thermos and a gourd. Just everybody on the street. In Argentina, not as common.
All right. You cutting to me here?
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't do this over the board.
No, let's do that not over the mixer. And angle it in a way where people can see, Lewis, instead of a head-on angle. Please. Do us a favor. And I would raise it up. It's behind your mic thing now. I mean, this is unbelievable.
There you go.
You've poured it in. Okay, Lewis being very diligent, very careful. Putting the cover back on the hot water thermos. And ladies and gentlemen, Lewis preparing.
There you go.
We need silence on the field here. Lewis preparing. He is holding
Ready?
it up. Now, well, hold on a second. Describe what you're going to do now.
I'm going to drink it.
Okay.
The straw, I mean, there's all sorts of powder and, a filament in here. I don't know what you want
There's
to
a
call it.
filter. Yeah, at the bottom of the straw, there's a filter, and it filters out the big pieces of the leaf.
Okay.
Here we go, Lewis. Lewis leaning in. Sucking motion. I saw a clench. Lewis, I feel like if we go back to the instant replay,
It was
Lewis's
intense.
face, he grimaced at the taste of it. Okay, he's going back in
Now,
for a second taste.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, Lewis looks distraught. He really looks like he's been injured.
It's very bitter. It does have an interesting flavor, and the aftertaste is pleasant. But it tastes like something familiar. I don't know what it is. Very bitter.
So
hopefully the health benefits outweigh that.
So it's pretty normal for it to seem kind of too bitter the first time you try it. That's actually a very mild herb. So there are more bitter ones that you can buy. But if you try it more than a few times, you'll get to the real taste. The bitterness will kind of not be an issue anymore, I think. And you might get to like it. You should try it again.
Lewis, evaluate.
Evaluate?
Yeah, I mean, what is this something, a drink you could see yourself like walking around with a thermos and having this, or is it not really that good?
Well, I mean, is it practical to be walking around with this and a thermos of hot water? I mean, it's on told you, like, you can't move the straw. You got to have all this stuff in here.
Well, no, usually you don't leave the straw in there. I just did that because I set it up for you. But you can just go around with the gourd.
All right. Well, Louis, I want to congratulate you on this. It is a big accomplishment. You seem to have survived. It's not a drink I like, but maybe it's something you would be into.
I did it. I made it.
All right. Let's take a break. We're going to be having on Monday, we're having a members-only video call-in where members will be able to call in after the show. We're going to have like a roundtable discussion. You can ask questions. If it sounds interesting, davidpakman.com/membership. Sign up, and you'll be able to take part in that, and of course the bonus show. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Want to say hi to a David Pakman Show new member of the day, the membership program made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Have you ever noticed, Louis, that people talk about liberal arts degrees but never conservative arts degrees? Doesn't that seem a little bit biased to you?
Very strange.
Find out more at liberalbias.com. Daniel Mia is today's new David Pakman Show member of the day. And the last name, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, is Meah.
Maya. Don't know.
Maybe it's Daniel Meyerhofer. As you know, of course, that incredible incident where Bill O'Reilly completely cluelessly reading an email from Jack Meyerhofer.
Yeah. He's just not hip to, to practical jokes.
No, I heard he does the wave at
culture.
baseball games with just one
he does
finger.
One finger, that's right.
Papa John's Pizza is blaming a price increase on Obamacare. Papa John's CEO, this is unbelievable, says that Obama's Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is causing a price increase in the popular pizza delivery and carryout business. Now, why it's popular, I have absolutely no idea. I'm amazed that it can even legally be called pizza, that you get at Papa John's.
Yes. It's gross, yeah.
It is. So
Yeah.
John Schnatter said that health care reform upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court is forcing him to pass on higher costs to consumers. He was quoted saying that we're not supportive of Obamacare like most businesses in our industry. What, the crappy pizza industry?
The big business industry.
But our business model and unit economics are about as ideal as you can get for a food company to absorb Obamacare. Prices are going up about 15 to 20 cents per order, according to industry experts. I guess now I'll have to stop getting that really great Papa John's pizza because of this.
15 to 20 cents.
Even though at the same time, I actually am happy in reality to pay an extra 20 cents per delivery if it means that everybody who made and delivered the pizza has health care. To be honest, I actually would be willing to pay that if that was the reality and I didn't think this was political posturing from the Papa John's CEO. But
you would think that as the CEO, he would be happy to increase his prices by such a small amount so that
it's a good point. If you're a CEO...
so that he can provide health care to all his employees.
And for 15 extra cents per pizza, you can give everybody in your huge business health care? Why wouldn't you want to do that?
I guess to him, this is a bad thing.
It is. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
So if you work at Papa John's, you might want to try somewhere else.
Fox's Greg Gutfeld said that Obama is, quote, out of the closet and, quote, officially gay for class warfare. Now, I don't get if this is supposed to be some kind of joke or if it's supposed to be some kind of attack. I don't really get it, but Greg Gutfeld thought it was a funny joke. Let's take a listen.
The thing, do you notice a trend here? Obama is now out of...
Oh boy, we're having some kind of a problem with the video here from Media Matters, Louis. Let's see if we can get this thing restarted. Why don't we?
Please.
And actually
you
get
seem
a
to be
listen
having
to
a lot of computer problems recently.
Well, there's a number of issues that are happening on the technical side, but that's just something that sometimes does take place. Let's see if we can get it here. Okay, we can't, but that's okay. You know why? Because really this was getting me into a different discussion.
Perhaps you need to take that Windows course again at the local community college.
You think so? I'm not really that good with computers. My computer's not even on right now. That's
just
the weird,
pretending.
That's the weird thing. I don't even have a computer. This is just a mouse that's connected to nothing.
Yeah.
No, but I was using the Greg Gutfeld comment to get me into this idea that this is now a new conspiracy theory. We've heard about the birth certificates. We've heard about Obama, the entire birth actually being faked via a telegram from Kenya. Now, known conspiracy theorist and nut Jerome Corsi is suggesting that Obama was actually married before he was married to Michelle Obama to a man. Let me go further. To a Pakistani man. Let's take a look at the incredible theory from Jerome Corsi here.
Surprisingly, in a bunch of pictures that everyone's seen of Obama when he was in college, beginning about 1971.
Okay, let's pause it right there. 1971, Barack Obama was 10 years old. I don't know of that many 10-year-olds that are in college. Certainly, I don't think President Obama was.
Really doubt it.
But let's say you buy into that. I guess that would mean Obama's, what, 75 now?
Right.
If people are saying he's looking really old from being president, if he's 75, he's looking great.
I agree.
Yeah, I just want to correct David's math there. If he were in college in 1971, he'd probably be 60 now.
Okay.
Not 75.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He looks great for 60. Let's continue.
His Harvard law years, which are the early 1990s, just before he got engaged to Michelle, he was wearing a wedding ring. Now, we've all seen these pictures, and in fact, I'm not sure you'll be able to see them real clearly, but I want to scroll through the articles and you'll know the pictures. This is the one of Obama in Central Park with the grandparents when he was supposedly attending Columbia. It's been highly criticized because the grandfather's hand looks like it's floating there over Obama's shoulders. And
Perfectly reasonable.
This is a fake picture, Photoshopped. But what people have not noticed, in fact, it was a surprise to me when one of the readers pointed it out. I got tipped onto this by a reader comment that Obama's wearing a wedding ring on the wedding ring finger of his left hand.
Huh.
I started looking at some other pictures. These are the pictures that Lisa Jack took of Obama at Occidental in the 70s, early 71, 72.
Right, when
and
he was
again,
10.
He's got a wedding ring on. It's amazing. I mean, he's not married as far as we know, unless, of course, this is a love affair with his Pakistani male roommate. I mean, what's the ring for? The majority of the readers after these articles have said, come on, Dr. Corsi, get with it. This is a homosexual symbol for women to stay away because he's married, same-sex marriage to his roommate boyfriend.
Of course, Louis, the fact that when in 1971, when Obama was 10, but looks much older in those pictures, and of course it doesn't correspond with his birth year, he had a wedding ring on his left hand. Of course, the only explanation is that he was having a gay marriage, which was, of course, not legal, with his Pakistani roommate. What other explanation could there be?
I can't possibly think of one. That is so perfect. Yeah. We were wrong this whole time.
Dr. Corsi, incredible theory. I would love to hear the next one. Thank you. Herman Cain hopes that gas prices will increase to help Mitt Romney win the presidency. Former presidential candidate and prominent Romney backer Herman Cain says if gas prices go up significantly before November, regardless of what happens to consumers as a result, it would help President Obama be defeated, and that would be a good thing. Let's hear the audio of Herman Cain addressing this issue when he was guest hosting for, who was he guest hosting for? I assume it's Neil Bortz, who he's taking over for at some point soon. Let's take a listen.
I'm good, and you?
Great. What's on?
Is it wrong that since gas prices have been going up like 30 cents in the last month and a half, that for a while I've been hoping for gas to hit $4 so that people will realize that we need a Republican in the presidency so that on November 7th, gas will be slashed to like $2 a gallon?
Right.
That's not wrong at all because, and here's why that's not wrong to wish that it hit it.
Yes,
if it
tell
hits
us why.
$4 a gallon nationally, that would be a huge wake-up call for a lot of people who, quite frankly, Mark, aren't paying attention, okay? And the other reason that I would agree with you that it's not wrong in order to wake people up in that manner, because sometimes you don't wake them up until it hits their checkbook or their pocketbook, is the fact that some of the times when the gas prices go down, it's manipulated. It's manipulated by the oil-producing countries. There are some countries that are really, really big as far as oil production that want Barack Obama to win.
Right. Okay. So it's very, very simple, Louis. What's interesting about this argument, other than the fact that Herman Cain is completely incompetent, is that if gas doesn't hit $4 a gallon, he's kind of implying it's evidence we don't really need a Republican to win. And I don't even think he realizes he's kind of making that implication. We need gas at $4 a gallon for people to realize that we need a Republican in office.
He would obviously argue that no, we need a Republican to win no matter what, but we need to have lower or higher gas prices to show people so that they realize
people won't figure it out unless they see $4 a gallon gas. Now, let's take that to its logical conclusion. If you see $4 a gallon gas, why would that make you think Obama needs to go? Oh, right, because Mitt Romney said that prices going up or down, gas prices going up or down, of course, is credit or blame for the president. Of course, since gas prices have gone down, I haven't heard Mitt Romney say a word giving credit to President Obama for those gas prices going down.
No, and according to the caller on the show, as soon as a Republican hits office, gas prices will be cut in half.
Yeah, to $2, which of course Michelle Bachmann ran on. We know where she is now.
Yes.
People forget, by the way, that in the year 2000, then candidate George W. Bush said he could get oil prices down from the record high of $1.69 a gallon by telling OPEC to, quote, open up the spigot. 8 years later, gas hit $4.12 a gallon. We're well below that now under a Democratic president. Let's not think about that, though. Let's listen to Herman Cain and the callers and Michelle Bachmann about $2 gas.
I do want to say something positive quickly about Herman Cain.
Yeah.
His speech is obviously not based on reality. Nothing that he says makes any sense. However, he is a funny guy, and John Oliver from The Daily Show has done these recurring bits on The Daily Show where he interviews him, and it's very funny, and Herman Cain is very self-deprecating in them, so I highly recommend watching those.
Yeah, it's no different from when he gives that kind of an answer hosting for Neil Boortz. He's self-deprecating in both ways. It's just he's not aware of it on the Boortz show.
I agree.
Certainly not setting himself up for any other run at office.
Well, that pizza business is lucrative.
Well, we will see if good business lets you become president. Good business experience, that is.
We'll see with Romney. Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll talk to Scott Keeter from Pew Research Center after this about the polls. Do the polls say that people care about the Mitt Romney tax return? Do the polls say that Obama's going to win in a landslide? What do they say? Let's take a break. Stay tuned. Scott Keeter's next.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Scott Keeter is Director of Survey Research at the Pew Research Center. Scott, great to see you as always. I think a good place to start is national polls. What does it look like right now between Obama and Romney for the November election?
Well, if you take the average of national polls, as has become the custom among the junkies who follow the campaign, you find a fairly close race. I mean, it depends on which polls you include in the average, as always. But if you just take the overall average, the race is almost a dead heat. Maybe Obama has a point or possibly two advantage. If you're like a lot of people and you only trust the live interviewer polls, you would find the race to be somewhat further apart, but still close. Obama by 3 or 4. If you look only at the so-called robo-polls, you actually have several of those that show Romney either tied or ahead. So any way you cut it, I think this is a fairly close election, notwithstanding the fact that our most recent poll showed Obama with a 10-point lead, and a Reuters poll that came out today has him up 7.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, Rasmussen, known to be a right-leaning poll, the Gallup tracking poll, known to have a number of methodology issues, but good as an indicator of momentum, if nothing else. How did you get, what do you think was different about your poll that has Obama 10 points up, which of course is very different than the average, as you said?
Right. Well, our polling this season has actually shown Obama with a somewhat larger lead than, say, the Gallup poll. That could be a result of the fact that we treat the demographics a little differently. We may have a slightly higher representation of non-whites in our sample than they do. Those are the kinds of systematic differences that could account for some of it. And then you just get fluctuation from poll to poll. It could be that this particular poll, the one that has Obama up by 10, is just a little more Democratic, just as a result of the luck of the draw. But one of the things that we stress when we put out a poll and get people questioning whether we've got our thumb on the scale is that we do our polling, we look at the results, we look at the sample to make sure that it's a good sample, that it represents the groups that it's supposed to represent properly, as indicated by its fidelity to what we see in the census. And if we don't have any reason to believe that there's something wrong with the sample, we put it out there, even though we know that people may question it. I mean, that's pollsters that are going to bury a poll because they don't like the finding, one way or the other. You can't operate that way. So we put it out there. But this one happens to be a little more Democratic than the average.
So two questions, I guess, comparing the numbers that we have right now in August to past elections. Number one, how close were the polls in 08, 04, and in 2000 at this point? And also, how accurate were the polls in August of previous elections at determining who would ultimately win in November?
I really don't think that we should give all that much credence to where the race stands today. I think the average of the polls suggests it's going to be a close race. A lot of the fundamentals about the election suggest that it's going to be a close race. And so in that sense, you can probably give some general trust. But we have seen in the past that early polls don't necessarily indicate how things are going to turn out. For example, 4 years ago, John McCain, after his convention, which was a little bit later, actually was able to pull even with Obama or even ahead in some polls. The conventions almost always give their candidate a little bit of a bounce. It doesn't seem to last a long time, but it does happen. So if you were just taking polls from this period around the time of the conventions, around the time that Kerry was nominated, the Democrats had a July convention. You would think that he was in pretty good shape, and of course he ended up losing by 3 in 2004. So as much as I say, look at our polls because we have something interesting and useful in them, we don't pretend that they're forecasts of what's going to happen in November.
Okay, now if instead of looking at national polls, we look at state polling and then extrapolate out the electoral vote values of those states, what does the race look like right now?
There are 2 or 3 observers that are doing this on a very systematic basis. I mean, and probably more than that, but we think about Nate Silver's blog at the New York Times, the 538. You also see models being built by pollster.com, the Huffington Post pollster. And these are all showing Obama in pretty good shape if you take the current polling as indicative of what's going to happen in November. And the reason for that is that Obama seems to have locked up a very solid base of electoral votes in big states, New York and California in particular, that he can count on, Illinois certainly. And then he's doing pretty well in the battleground states. We heard polling today from CBS in Quinnipiac in 3 states. Obama's trailing Romney very narrowly in Colorado, but ahead in 2 other states. And so, the picture assembling the puzzle that way is a little more favorable to Obama. Nate Silver, for example, gives Obama, I think, about a 70% chance of carrying the Electoral College based on the polling and the economic circumstances as we know them today.
And is your sense that those evaluations in August are accurate, or is there just so much we don't know about some of those individual races that could swing the entire election?
Well, that's part of it, the fact that there's a lot of campaigning left to do. If you live like I do in Virginia, you would wonder how in the world we can stand more campaigning because we're being bombarded with political ads. But there's also another factor that I think is potentially more important in this election than it has been in some previous ones, and that is there's a lot of economic uncertainty beyond the borders of the United States. that could have a major impact on what happens in our election. We haven't heard a lot about it in the last week or two, but there certainly is still the danger that Greece might end up leaving the EU, dropping out of the euro. There are other problems in parts of Europe that could create a cascade that would send our economy back into recession, or at least have a shock that would potentially undermine Obama's campaign. I mean, he's already on thin ice with the economy. If things were to actually get measurably worse, it could certainly hurt him. And then there's just a lot of anxiety in the Middle East, in Syria and Iran, with Israel. And, these are factors that they're always president, but they seem more worrisome this time than in some previous cycles.
In the last few seconds we have left, on this Mitt Romney tax cut thing, any polling at all we can look at in terms of, number one, whether voters want to see his tax returns, and also, number two, whether the content of those tax returns could swing any significant portion of the electorate?
It's hard to speculate on the second one. I mean, there are all kinds of things that could be in someone's tax returns that would be harmful if he had taken a tax amnesty to be able to bring some income in from one of his accounts overseas. Something like that could certainly be harmful to the campaign, but we have no reason to believe that that's in there. We don't know one way or the other. On the question of whether the public wants to see them, there certainly is a general sense that transparency is a good thing. But when we ask people specifically, would you like to know more about Romney's tax returns, we only found 36% of the public saying yes, and just a bare majority of Democrats said that. That's sort of part of a package of I think, fatigue with the campaign, even though we haven't even gotten to the nominating conventions yet.
All right, Scott Heater, Director of Survey Research at the Pew Research Center. Thanks as always, Scott.
Thank you, David.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Become a David Pakman Show member at davidpakman.com/membership. You'll get the commercial-free podcast, 1-hour commercial-free videos of the show, as well as the bonus show for members only, hosted and produced by producer Lewis. davidpakman.com/membership. A Pennsylvania DJ named DeJuan Porter is accused of breaking into the homes of men that he saw at clubs and parties and performing oral sex on them as they slept. How you can even get it together to pull something like this off 3 times before the police catch on is actually kind of incredible to me.
Yeah, clearly the guy's a pro.
There you go. Let's take a look at some local news coverage of Mr. Porter's hijinks.
Well, Harrisburg police arrested a man they say prowled the bar scene looking for victims to satisfy an insatiable appetite for sex in a very unusual way.
Police say DeJuan Porter performed oral sex on unsuspecting men while they slept. And tonight, one man tells only CBS 21 News about the night he found Porter on top of him.
CBS 21's Annie McCormick is live with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Harrisburg with the details. Annie?
Well, Rob and Tanya, DeJuan Porter is known for his DJing around the city of Harrisburg. However, over the past year, he's become notorious for sexually assaulting men when they least expect it. In May of 2011, a man reports to police a stranger climbed up his fire escape, broke in, and he woke to the strange man performing oral sex on him.
All right, so you get a sense for where this is going. How is this something that's been notorious? He's been notorious for this for a year, yet this is the first we're hearing about it. How does that happen?
That is strange. How are you notorious for something? I mean, it's like...
You know what? He was arrested for similar crimes last year, apparently.
Still, though. I mean, if they know who did it, why did it take this long to arrest him, or what's going on?
I got a ton of emails, people asking me if DeJuan Porter is a priest, but he's not. He's a DJ.
Well, I mean, as far as we know, he's not a priest.
He may face some stiff punishment, that's for sure.
Oh, that's a good one.
Some are saying, actually, I did get 2 or 3 emails saying that if the perpetrator wasn't black in this case, this wouldn't be a story. I think that's completely bogus. There's nothing about DeJuan Porter being black that makes this any weirder of a story. This is an incredibly bizarre story.
Ridiculously bizarre, and you know what? It sounds to me like prison might be just the place for this guy.
Yeah, actually, he was charged while in prison for assaulting his cellmate. He's been in prison before.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like he was having a good time.
It sounds like he's very active no matter where he finds himself.
Guess so.
Scott Smith was arrested at a Dark Knight screening. He's 37 years old. This happened in North Ridgeville, Ohio. He allegedly brought weapons into the 10 p.m. showing of The Dark Knight Rises. According to WCPO, he was carrying a satchel containing a Glock 9mm handgun, ammunition, and 3 knives. He apparently caught the eye of one of the theater employees, who then called the police, and they found that he had all this stuff. How long can it be argued that something like this is simply self-defense because of what happened in Colorado, right? I mean, that's what we're hearing from a lot of these incidents. Listen, I saw what happened in Colorado. I just want to protect myself from someone else doing that.
It sounds like that was what was going on here. I mean, it's just paranoia, right?
It's not clear. The police grabbed him before he did anything, and we don't really have information about what it was that he was doing with the satchel and knives and guns. But certainly the argument has been made by some of the people caught with guns in these movies is that they're scared because of what happened in Colorado.
I believe that was his claim. I saw an article on that, and I believe he made the claim that it was for his own protection.
It's a strange time to be in the U.S., isn't it?
Yeah. As of the past few years, it has.
It has been very, very, very unusual.
I mean, even the election is just so bizarre.
Let's say this guy did have the guns and the knives there, the gun and the knives there for self-defense. Would it make you feel safer, or would you still feel less safe even if this guy thinks he has the gun for self-defense?
He probably feels more safe, but if I knew that he was in there with those things for his own protection, I would feel less safe because of him.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. Let's go to some of your voicemails. 219-2-DAVID-P, 24-hour voicemail line. Here's a voicemail about Mitt Romney and taxes. Let's take a listen.
Hi there, guys. First of all, I love the commercial-free video stream. It's awesome.
Nice.
But really, the reason I'm calling is I don't think that we should expect to see any Mitt Romney tax anything before the convention. I don't think he can risk going into the Republican convention in Tampa after some embarrassing exposure. It's too close. I don't think it'll happen.
Okay, you know, I'm actually two-sided on that. On the one hand, certainly delaying releasing the tax returns as much as possible makes sense. At the same time, if you release them before the convention and there is something alarming in there, you then have the entire convention to have a whole bunch of Republicans talk about everything but those tax returns and try to distract people from them. I actually think there may be more to be said about getting them out as soon as possible rather than delaying as much as possible.
It really could go either way, though.
I guess it really depends on what's in there, and we just have no idea.
Yeah.
Anything could be in there.
Right.
Let's take a listen to another voicemail from the Eggman about the Argentina trip.
Excuse me, I'm just finishing my Chick-fil-A sandwich. David and guys, man, I miss you guys so much. David, I have a question for you. Thank you for coming back, first of all. I just want to ask you, when you went to visit your home country of, I can't remember, can you tell me what the natives there feel about America? Because I just remember when I lived in Europe that everybody just had really negative feelings about America. So especially with an election coming up, what did you perceive from your family down there and the people down there? You know, what's a foreigner's perception of the election, Mitt Romney, Obama, our country, all that stuff? Thank you, David. Thanks for coming back. Shalom. Bye-bye.
Okay. I mean, long story short, there is not hate for the U.S. in general in Argentina, I would think, Natan. There are individuals, certainly some of the cranky older folks in our family who have a lot of negative comments to say, mostly based on media stereotypes about Americans. But otherwise, people are pretty neutral. I think generally in our family, at least, most people are relatively progressive, and they seem to like Obama over Romney.
Yeah, I think we have to go. But yeah, there's a lot to go around. Some people criticize the U.S. for all sorts of reasons, but overall, like you said, there's not a general anti-American thing going on.
All right, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.